Right now, as you're watching this, do you feel like you're choosing to be here? It probably feels that way. You clicked on this video, you decided to keep watching, you're listening because you want to. That feeling, that sense of control is what we call free will. But what if that feeling is an illusion? What if free will doesn't actually exist? People define free will as this idea that I could have chosen otherwise, that at any moment you are the ultimate author of your actions, that your choices come from you, not from biology, not from the past, not from external forces. But psychology and neuroscience complicate that idea very quickly, because when we zoom in on how decisions are actually made, things start to fall apart. The truth is, you are programmed. You didn't choose to need food. You didn't choose to need sleep. You didn't choose to feel pain, fear, hunger, or desire. These are biological imperatives. Your body demands to eat, drink, sleep, breathe. You don't get a vote on whether you need these things. You only get limited choices within them. You can choose what to eat, but not whether hunger exists. You can choose when to sleep, but not whether exhaustion comes. That's constraint with customization. And already, that should make you start questioning. Because if your most basic actions are compulsory, how free can the rest of your choices really be? Here's where neuroscience steps in. Studies on decision making show that your brain initiates actions before you're consciously aware of deciding. In experiments, people were asked to press a button whenever they felt like it. Brain scans show that the brain made the decisions hundreds of milliseconds before the person felt like they chose, which means you don't decide, then act. You act, then feel like you decided. Consciousness doesn't start the action, it narrates it. Free will starts to look less like a driver and more like a commentator. Let me ask you something. Did you choose your personality? Did you choose your temperament, your intelligence, your emotional sensitivity, your anxiety level, your impulses? You didn't. Genetics decided part of it. Your childhood shaped the rest. Trauma, culture, upbringings, hormones, environment all sculpted your mind before you ever got a say. And now that mind is making choices. But how free can a choice be when you didn't choose the thing doing the choosing? Psychologically, every action you take has antecedents, a cause. You didn't choose coffee randomly. You chose it because you're tired, you like the taste, you learned it wakes you up. Your brain associates it with comfort. Trace any decision back far enough and you'll find a chain of causes you didn't author. Even rebellion has a cause. Even doing something unexpected has a psychological explanation. Randomness doesn't equal freedom, and predictability doesn't equal control. It feels like free will exists, and that feeling is powerful. The brain creates a sense of agency because it's useful. Feeling in control increases motivation, reduces anxiety, helps you plan, reinforces responsibility. So the brain gives you the experience of authorship even if the mechanics underneath are automatic. Free will may not be real, but the feeling of free will is. And confusing the feeling for the fact is where most people stop questioning. Here's where it gets interesting. If free will means total freedom, freedom from biology, freedom from cause, freedom from necessity, then the only way to truly have free will would be not to exist at all. Because existence itself comes from constraints. To exist is to be limited, influenced, affected, shaped. A being that exists must obey rules, physical laws, biological needs, psychological patterns. Absolute freedom would require no consciousness, no brain, no past, no cause, which means the only thing that can have true free will is something that was never born. So does that mean that I am not responsible for what I do? Doesn't that mean that nothing matters? No. And this is important. Determinism doesn't mean meaninglessness. Responsibility doesn't disappear, it just becomes contextual. You're still accountable because your actions affect others, not because you magically authored yourself. Morality doesn't require free will, it requires consequences. Here's a better way to think about it. You may not have absolute free will, but you do have relative freedom, freedom within limits. You can reflect, learn, adapt, resist impulses, understand your conditioning. Awareness doesn't break casualty, but it changes outcomes. Knowing why you act the way you do gives you leverage, not freedom from causes, but freedom through understanding them. People don't resist this idea because it's false, they resist it because it feels destabilizing. Free will feels tied to identity, morality, self-worth, control, but psychology keeps showing us the same pattern. Letting go of illusions doesn't destroy meaning, it forces you to rebuild it honestly. The real question isn't, do you have free will? The real question is, what do you do once you realize how much of you was never chosen? Do you deny it, or do you choose that knowledge to become more compassionate with yourself and others? Because if free will doesn't exist the way we thought, then understanding replaces judgment. So maybe free will, as we imagine it, doesn't exist. Maybe what we call choice is the surface of something much deeper, a system of causes, a body obeying laws, a mind shaped by forces it didn't design. And maybe the most honest kind of freedom isn't pretending you're uncaused, but learning how to live responsibly inside the limits of being human.